the rubber hits the road with the patrol officers and the sergeant. So to new patrol officers, what would you say to them? And then to sergeants that are experienced guys in what you would experience, what would you say to them both?
Yeah. So for the new officers, you have to, so there's a lot of emphasis on production, and that has to be the case because no matter what job you do, there has to be some way to measure performance, right? And no matter what job you do, you're getting paid to perform. As a young cop, I think that you can become so statistical performance can become so important to you that you gloss over other things like officer safety. Like instead of covering your partner on a call, you what we call preempt, and you go stop a car before that, or you do something else because at the end of the month, when the statistical sheets are on the boss's desk, you want your name to be at the top. I'm not saying don't be productive because that's absolutely part of your job is to arrest people and to, to cite people and that stuff. That's part of the job. But don't let that skew what the real purpose of law enforcement is, which is to safeguard the citizens that you're supposed to protect. That's number one, and to protect your fellow officers and yourself. So don't let statistical performance be your number one priority. That would be what I would tell the young cops. And also listen to people who are older. You don't know everything as a young cop, and just try to do the best you can while maintaining safety and doing the right thing for the right reasons. So there's some cops that are at the top of that stat sheet, but what they do is they arrest everybody for everything. And just because someone violates the law doesn't necessarily mean they should go to jail, right? As a cop, you are supposed to be able to reason through things and use common sense, good judgment, and discretion to decide. And I don't mean you're going to say, well, this dude is of this color, so no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying in that situation, based on the circumstances, not based on personal biases or anything, but based on the circumstances, do what's right. Don't worry if you're number one or number two in statistical performance, just do what's right. Now, for the sergeants, and I promoted later in my career, some people that promote very early, it's a challenge because the officers don't view that new sergeant necessarily as a leader or as a mentor. They view him as a peer. And so a lot of times a new sergeant wants his guys to like him, so he's not hard on them, or he doesn't supervise them to the level that they need to be supervised. And that creates a whole big problem where now the officers realize that their boss is a pushover, so they're going to do whatever they want, puts the boss in bad situations and everything else. For me, since I was so active in all the training aspects of the police department, I was viewed, I think, as kind of a leader even before I was officially a leader. So I didn't really have that problem. Plus, I had a lot of age on these dudes who are new. Maybe they're 25. I was 48 or whatever when I promoted. So that was helpful too. But I think as a sergeant, it's a tough job because you're the middleman. So you have to be in some ways a representative and kind of the mouthpiece for the chief to try to sell his policies or whatever to the troops who may not agree with it. You may not agree with it, but I think just being open and honest is very helpful. So I'm not the chief, I'm the sergeant, right? So I have to do the things that the chief wants, but I also am not a kiss ass. I'm not a sellout. I worry about my guys. And as a supervisor, if you put your guys first, they know that, man, and they're going to do whatever they can for you. I know you've had bosses, and I have too, that I would walk over freaking hot coals for them barefoot if they just asked me to. And I don't want to fail. It's not because I'm afraid I'm going to get in trouble or lose my job. I don't want to let this guy down because I respect this guy so much that I'd rather get fired than to disappoint him.
You're exactly right. The 40 years of government service and almost all of it in the National Mission Force, and it's the no-fail mission. You do not fail the mission no matter what the cost. But every charismatic leader that I would follow blindly, and I tried to do this myself in a leadership position for the last 20 years was my fucking team first, because that will get the mission done. And it's funny. I have a saying here at Born Primitive, and it took me a while to have this come out of my mouth to accept what I'm doing now. But I close my weekly closeout meeting every week with this. Hey guys, go have a good weekend, because we are not saving American lives or protecting the flag. We're making apparel. In other words, I realize what the mission is here. And my mission first is to my team as a leader and a mentor, which I cannot tell. My number one message to everybody in the world, if you're an experienced guy and you're not passing that knowledge on and being a mentor, you're failing. You are failing. And that's what I try to do here, because I am taking the same thing that made me a success in the military here. And they're getting it. They're like, we hire people as coordinators, want to move them up to manager, to senior manager, to director. Well, some people will only ever go to one level. That's where they're at, their ability to lead and stuff. But you should always be training them for the next level. We used to say in the military, the speed of rank is the speed of 7.62. You could be in a leadership position with one round. Again, we're making apparel here. But somebody leaves, has a baby, next person up. So I don't care what career field you're in. If you put your people first, and you don't have to compromise your integrity or the mission of your business or your unit to do that, you just safeguard them and you get to know them. Like, if you don't know how many family members, whether they're married, whether they have kids of your team, I don't care if you're leading 20 people, you're not a good leader.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And as an instructor, that's always been my passion is I want, sometimes to a detriment, to where I have a limited amount of time and I try to give the person I'm training all this knowledge. It's like I overload them, and I'm learning as I become more experienced. Don't give them all that information at one time. Make it digestible. And that's part of being a good instructor. But one of the things, Bruno, that I am comforted by is I feel in my heart that I took the training at my police department from one level to another level over the course of my career, and made the training more realistic, fought for better training and all that. And at the same time, I feel that the guys who are coming up after me are going to do the same thing. In other words, they're going to take it to the next level, because these dudes are training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu all the time. They're younger, they're fit, they're motivated. Whereas the last part of my career, the last few years, I was running my business and stuff. So I took a step back a little bit. I was at every defensive tactics session, every firearm session forever. And it was hard for me to step back and let these guys, because now I'm the supervisor, right? But I was running the show when I was a sergeant, and the supervisor was only there to help me if I needed help. And when I first got promoted, I still felt like I got to be the lead instructor in this. And then it took me a little while to realize, no, dude, you don't. You just have to be there for that instructor. If he needs you, exactly. Trust your people. And that's one of the things when you look at an instructor, or a supervisor rather, who you really admire and respect, it's the guy who, like you said, is going to develop his personnel and who's going to have your back, but he's not going to sit there and micromanage it. It's not your job as a supervisor to do that, one. And two, you're depriving this guy who's coming up the opportunity that you had to develop. And that's not right.